last top 5, and we may actually end our show a little early tonight.
Yeah, well, I don't know, we can talk some stuff afterwards, whatever comes to our
You
mind.
heard us, we'll talk some stuff.
There's words I might use, but I promised my wife I try not to swear anymore on this show. Because I have used certain words. Okay, so number 5 on my list is Batman. And
surprise.
And this again, whether it was the cheesy 1960s show starring Adam West, or whether it was the cartoon,
who is not an enjoyable person.
Yeah, he was just a mean old man when I saw him a couple of years ago at Comic-Con. But then again, this guy's like around 80 years old now, so
he's a stuck-up man.
But
West.
But for me, what really led to me really being a Batman fan was the cartoon in the 1990s, which of course Mark Hamill was on as the Joker. And I love that. That was the show that kind of led me back into it. Of course, I've stated on several occasions, or just mentioned earlier, Michael Keaton's by far my favorite actor to ever played Batman.
Yes. And
it's just, I don't know, there's something about this one man vigilante who is trying to clean up Gotham, but because of because he refuses to kill anybody, and because Gotham is such a corrupt city, he's going to spend the rest of his life going off and having to try to defeat the same group of villains. Number 4 on my list is the Hulk. And this was, I don't know, there's just something, again, it's that chaos thing where he's angry and he just smashes everything, and yet this monster has got, a heart of gold. And it's just, I remember as a kid, even as a kid, I loved it. I actually got in trouble in kindergarten because I was running around the classroom saying Hulk smash. So, I've been a fan of, this character for, over 30 years now. Number 3 on my list is Spider-Man. And, I'm, again, going back to the late 90s, there was the Spider-Man cartoon, but I remember the classic Spider-Man cartoon actually came out much earlier with that catchy, Spider-Man. It's just, Spider-Man, Peter Parker is probably the most, I don't know, I can't think of the word right now, but the one, hero that, is the easiest to relate to. There we go. And I just felt that it was a great villain, great hero. And, teen angst and everything. It was very easy to go off and say, yeah, I can understand where he's coming from. And at the same time, have all these really great villains for him to face. Number 2, and this is, a villain or a hero or whatever, because again, I think this guy is like the ultimate tweener, because whoever pays this guy the most money is going to get his services. So, and I'm talking about Deadpool. Now, again, most people would consider Deadpool to be a hero, but this guy, the merc with the mouth, would be, as much a villain. I could seriously see him going off and get paid to try to steal something that Spider-Man or the X-Men are trying to save, or, protect, or whatever. But, I don't know, this is a character that I just really got into the last couple of years, and, I absolutely love. Every time, I see him, recently, it just absolutely cracks me up. I saw some YouTube videos where they went off and just took all of the video clips from the Deadpool game that came out a couple years ago. And I just laughed the entire way through. And everything with Ryan Reynolds and the stuff that Batman's son has done, has just led to me to love this character more and more. And I can't wait to see Deadpool next year. It's probably the one movie next year I'm looking forward to the most. And my number 1 favorite is our fellow Canadian. Actually, it's kind of funny because the top 2 on this list are Canadians. But the number 1 on my list is Wolverine. And again, this goes back to Sabretooth. There's something I really enjoy about that. There's that feral character. You know, the guy's ageless. I mean, according to one origin story, this guy was born in like the early 1900s. I've actually heard somewhere else that this guy actually was born in ancient Egypt. Which I don't think is true, but I thought it was a really his origin stories and everything, all the way up to, you know, everything with Old Man Logan. You know, there's just something about him. You know, this gruff guy with seems to have a real heart, who, you know, is a terrible father. If you're aware, you know, this guy's went off and he's killed at least one of his own children. But there's just something I just absolutely, you know, love about it. It's probably why Wolverine, Origins just pissed me off so much, even though I didn't actually have it on my list. And yeah.
So I'm ashamed at 2 things. 1, I forgot Deadpool. Yeah. And 2, we only have 1 in common.
We only have, okay. Let's hear what your list is.
Okay, so number 5 is Raccoon.
Rocket!
Rocket Raccoon.
Rocket Raccoon.
You know, honestly, he was one of the 2 reasons I enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy so much. And, you know, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Deadpool, just not so rated R. You know, so that's huge. Number 4 is Beast. You know, from X-Men. I thought in the movies they didn't do him really great justice, but, you know, he was done to a point that, you know, you could tell who he was and what he was. Number 3, obviously, Professor X. You cannot go wrong with the guy who created, you know, X-Men. So, number 2, Wolverine. But my number 1 favorite hero, I am Groot.
I am Groot. Yeah, here's the thing. I didn't even think about these guys, but you absolutely Groot and Rocket were great. Here's the thing. I mean, the makers, the guys that went off and did, Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, they went off and actually tamed Rocket down, because if you read the comics, he's often censored for some of the language that he uses.
Yes, so he is basically kind of like Deadpool. So I technically have Deadpool. He's just smaller and furrier.
I honestly, I think there might actually be a version of Deadpool who's actually Rocket. I'm trying to, don't quote me on that, but I know there, at one point, Deadpool becomes Venom. Rocket becomes Venom for a brief period of time. In the new Guardian of the Galaxy's comics that feature Flash Thompson's version of Venom, or Agent Venom as he's called, Groot, I didn't really know a whole lot about Guardians of the Galaxy until the movie came out. I do remember, knowing that, all Groot can say is, I am Groot, and I turned to my wife and says, if he's allowed to say anything other than I am Groot, I'm going to be furious.
Yes.
And so, I mean,
it's very rare you fall in love with a character so much that only says 3 words.
And yet, I mean, you can say so much with so little.
Yes.
And absolutely, but, shame on you for not having Deadpool on there.
I had Rocket Raccoon.
Yes, well, that's almost forgivable, but yes. Shame on you for not having Deadpool.
I had Rocket Raccoon and I am Groot. I had a little tiny furry version of Deadpool. Cannot believe I forgot Deadpool.
Beast, I think Beast was great. Kelsey Grammer as Beast in X-Men Last Stand was probably one of the few really good things about that. And it's unfortunate because he does have a cameo at the very end of Days of Future Past when Wolverine goes off and helps to fix the past.
Yes.
And so
how ironic.
And I don't even think they go off and credit Kelsey Grammer for being even in that movie. If you go through the credits, I don't even think Kelsey Grammer's name is even mentioned. But it's clearly him. And I mean, but yeah, the other actor who plays the younger version of Beast, His portrayal of Hank McCoy has never really been big to me. Has been one of the ones I really enjoyed the most. Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique, that's a different story, and that's not just because I think Jennifer Lawrence is a very beautiful woman.
Besides the point. So we're going to start wrapping up. That's our top 5 list for the top 5 comic book movies that we love, top 5 comic books that we hate, and we pretty much share a few similarities on that one. Our top 5 favorite villains, which we didn't really share a lot of similarities.
I think Joker was the only one that was on both our lists.
Yes, I believe so. And our top 5 heroes were
again, with the only
Wolverine.
Wolverine was the only one that was on both our lists. But
technically, I had a little tiny furry version of Deadpool, so it counts.
I'd be fearful of what would happen if Deadpool and Rocket were allowed to hang out. God help us all.
The world would burn, and I would have fun. So anyways, you can follow us on Twitter, at RealCaptFizz, so at RealCaptainFizz.
You can follow me at ThatMaskGuy, and you can follow the show at FizzMaskShow. You can also
follow us on YouTube. Just look up Captain Fizz and Mask Guy Podcast.
You also can find us on Tumblr. Still, we're still in the development for a couple of ideas. There's a couple things that I really like to do. I'm going to maybe write a couple of articles. I'm thinking of doing some videos that do not actually feature the podcast. There's a couple things specifically with Fizz that I'd like to go off into explore. We're also on Facebook, although we haven't really been doing a whole lot with that.
No, Facebook has been lacking. There's not a lot of improvement there.
We're not really sure what to do with Facebook, so if you guys have any ideas as what we can do to improve both our Tumblr and Facebook accounts, let us know. We're also, considering changing the name of our show. We're not really sure. If you guys have any ideas, again, hook us up on on Twitter and let us know what you guys think. What should we stay as the Captain Fizz and Mask Guy show, or should we try to come up with another name?
We do have a logo currently in works to be that is being drawn, so that's going to be unveiled in the next little bit. So that's exciting.
Which will probably, once we get that new logo, that might actually lead us to our next big announcement.
Yes,
for the show.
We have a few big announcements that are currently hiding in our pockets.
Yes, absolutely. So, in the meantime and in between time, all I gotta say, folks, is good night. God bless, and may the Force be with you.
And all I gotta say is stay frosty, everybody, and catch us next week. Thank you, and good night.
Good night.